10 most beautiful countries in Europe. Europe has such an enormous range of diversity, culturally and geographically, that it would take years to discover every one of its 44 countries and pick your favorite. There's the volcanic, icy beauty of Iceland in the north and the soft greens and dramatic cliffs of the Norwegian fjords, or the mountains and castles of Scotland, or the gastronomy and fine art of France. To the south, the culture is completely different, as is the climate. Perhaps you should head to Italy for a taste of La Dolce Vita, or Greece for ancient history, and some of the most spectacular beaches in the world. To help you choose, here are 10 of the most beautiful countries in Europe to consider. Number 10. Greece. Greece is not only one of Europe's oldest countries, the birthplace of democracy, philosophy, medicine, and geometry, among others, but also one of its most beautiful. Sitting on the edge of Europe with the Balkans to the north, Africa to the south, and Asia to the east, its location at the meeting of three continents has not only made a prize acquisition for the powers that be, but also incredibly geographically diverse. There are towering mountains, some said to have been the home of the gods, deep valleys, and vast lakes on the mainland. In Athens, you'll be struck by the sheer beauty of the Parthenon perched on top of Acropolis Hill. And then there are the islands and what islands they are. Greece is home to more than 2,000 of them. Number 9. Spain. With Mediterranean beaches, beautifully wild, mountainous interiors, World Heritage cities, and volcanic islands, Spain offers a beguiling mix to travelers and is, without doubt, one of the most beautiful European countries. Much like Greece, its history is long and varied, with periods of rule by Visigoths, Romans, and the Moorish Muslim Caliphate all leaving their mark over the centuries, the latter particularly in southern Spain. It's here that some of the country's most impressive Moorish architecture can be found, the most famous of which is probably Granada's Alhambra. A fortified complex of palaces, towers, and gardens that dominates the skyline, the Alhambra rightfully takes its place as one of the 7 wonders of the Muslim world. The Alhambra can be visited from Malaga, the birthplace of one of the most famous artists of the 20th century, Picasso, and home to the Castillo de Gibralfaro, a ruined castle offering incredible vistas over the Alboran Sea to North Africa. Number 8. Ireland. When thinking of Ireland, for most people, Dublin will spring to mind. While the Irish capital is abuzz with culture and an incredible pub scene, much of Ireland's natural beauty lies on its west coast along the incredible Wild Atlantic Way driving route. Starting at the impossibly picturesque town of Kinsale, just south of Cork, it winds its way up the island's western seaboard in a series of towering cliffs, craggy coves, and vast beaches. Back in Cork, the port of Cove is famed as the last port of call of the ill-fated Titanic and the pushing-off point for 19th century emigration to America, but also for its brightly colored houses that lead up the hill to the imposing Gothic Revival Cove Cathedral. Number 7. Iceland. A visit to Iceland is a little like visiting another planet rather than another country, simply because it is so jaw-droppingly different from anywhere else in Europe. Almost entirely volcanic, outside of the cities, towns, and villages, the landscape is one of towering peaks, deep valleys, rocky coastlines, and lunar landscapes. Reykjavik, the capital, is a pretty port town with jauntily colored homes and iconic buildings such as Perlen, a futuristic dome housing a fine dining restaurant, and Hallgrímskirkja, a church shaped like a Viking longboat. But it's outside of town that some of the country's standout sites lie on a route known as the Golden Circle. Thingvellir National Park sits in a rift valley between two tectonic plates and centers around Thingvallavatn, Iceland's second biggest lake and the site of the country's original parliament. It is home to hiking trails past the lake, crashing waterfalls, and the ruins of several old stone shelters, all set against the most dramatic of landscapes. Number 6. Italy. Italy is home to some of the most beautiful buildings and artwork in the world. Rome's famous landmarks, such as the Colosseum, are rivaled only by those in Athens for their majesty. The city-state of the Vatican, home to the Pope and the headquarters of the Catholic Church, houses truly iconic art and architecture, including the incredible Sistine Chapel. For natural beauty, the country's southwest is unmatched. Driving down the lemon-scented Amalfi Coast sees every switchback reveal another celebrated view. The first sights of either Mount Vesuvius in Naples or Mount Etna in Sicily are truly jaw-dropping events, given the impressive majesty of both volcanoes. Number 5. Norway. Nowhere can match the incredible fjords of Norway for their serene beauty, ribbon-like waterfalls tumbling down dramatic cliffs against a backdrop of snow-capped mountains. The country's longest and deepest fjord, Sognefjord, branches into 2 equally impressive smaller arms, Orlandsfjord and Nerøyfjord. Orlandsfjord, the eastern branch of the two, is known for its steep railway, the Flamsbane, that climbs to the village of Flam with its pretty natural harbor and 17th century church passing gushing waterfalls along the way. The journey is believed to be one of the most beautiful railroad trips in the world. Homage to the beauty of Norway's fjords can also be paid at Preikestolen, the Pulpit Rock, a flat outcrop that offers a natural viewing platform as it towers almost 2,000 feet above Leisfjord. The hike to the summit is a challenging one on a precipitous path but is rewarded with vertiginous views of the waters below. Number 4. Scotland. The beauty of Scotland lies more in its wild ruggedness, rather than it being impossibly pretty. Towering Monroes as peaks of more than 3,000 feet are called here windswept moors, and steep-sided valleys of verdant green line the interior, while the coast's magnificent white sand beaches could well be in the Caribbean if the water were warmer. Head right across the country to the southwest to find Trossachs National Park, home to the bonny banks of Loch Lomond and a region with some of Europe's most spectacular vistas. You'll see Inversnaid Falls, Ben Lomond, its summit usually hidden by mist, and gorgeous Loch Katrine, which looks particularly beautiful when framed by a setting sun. Number 3. Portugal. The lovely Portuguese capital of Lisbon is as handsome a city as you'll come across on Europe's Atlantic coast. Set at the mouth of the Tagus estuary, its pastel-colored buildings, many lined with decorative ceramic tiles, seem to tumble down the hill that leads from 8th century São Jorge Castle to the port below. South of the capital, Parque Natural da Arabida is a coastal park and home to mountains, ancient forts, and iconic white chalk cliffs that dip into the azure Atlantic. To the north lies the country's second city, Porto, home to the haunting medieval Ribeira Riverside district with its narrow cobbled streets, old merchants' mansions, and bars serving wine from the local estates. Meanwhile, in the Azores, the city of Saint Cidades is one of the crown jewels of the remote archipelago and is set on the shore of Lake Azul, which sits in a flooded volcanic crater. Number 2. Sweden. Sweden is one of the most beautiful European countries, and you don't have to venture far from Stockholm to find its prettiest places. One of the best capital cities in Europe, Stockholm sits in an enchanting archipelago set in the Baltic Sea, made up of some 30,000 islands and islets, of which only 1,000 are inhabited. Back in the city itself, the old town of Gamla Stan is the place to visit. Set on its island, it features a maze of cobbled streets lined with brightly colored houses dating from the 17th and 18th centuries. Gamla Stan is also home to the Royal Palace, the 13th century Riddarholmen Church, and the Nobel Prize Museum, one of the best museums in Stockholm. Yet another stunning location in the archipelago is Drottningholm Palace, a 17th century royal residence on the island of Leuven. Number 1. France. Stretching from the Côte d'Opale sitting across the English Channel from the UK in the north to the super glamorous Côte d'Azur in the south, France is filled with gorgeous landscapes to explore. As you explore one of the most beautiful countries in Europe, you'll find rolling vineyards, fields of lavender, and rugged mountains. But a trip to France reveals much more than just natural beauty. Its metropolises are home to incredible architecture that set the 17th century tone that many other European cities coveted and then copied. In Paris, wide boulevards are lined with iconic sites. The Arc de Triomphe, the Eiffel Tower, and the Louvre Museum's unique pyramid entrance juxtaposed with the Gothic finery of the main Louvre Palace are just 3 to whet the appetite. A short drive away from the city reveals another icon, the Palace of Versailles, a former royal residence and World Heritage Site, considered one of the finest examples of 17th century architecture on the continent. Did you like it? Tell us what you think of the video in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting videos.